Yo, what's up guys? You got PokeaimMD here with a video, not necessarily a moveset video. I guess it is, but it's not a full analysis on Mew. But we're going to be talking about Genesis Supernova, Mew's signature Z move. Now, Mew did recently get a signature Z move, and it got the PokeaimMD. And what it does is it turns Psychic into Genesis Supernova. Now, this move is 185 base power Psychic type attack, which also summons Psychic terrain after damage. I'm going to give my honest thoughts about this and talk about two sets I have here, which are probably going to be the standard for Genesis Supernova Mew. If not, something maybe a little deviation between them. But I didn't want to do a full analysis just because Mew already has Stall Breaker, Mew has Wall Breaker, which this is something that can be added on to that. But I didn't want to do a full analysis on Mew. I just wanted to talk about Genesis Supernova because I felt like it needed to be talked about, and I'm a little bit late on the news. Anyway. So, Mew's Genesis Supernova becomes 185 base power when it's paired with Psychic and PokeaimMD. And like I said, it summons the Psychic terrain after. So the first set we have is a nasty plot, full-on offensive set. Timid, I believe you want Timid on this set just because you're able to outspeed Tapu Lele. You're able to outspeed Max Speed Lanner's Therian form. You're able to outspeed Kyurem Black. And just Pokemon under base 100. I believe Max Speed is really important when we have those giant threats running around. Specs Lele can hit you with Shadow Ball or Moonblast for a 2-hit KO, and I think you just want to be able to outspeed those, especially Double Dance Landorus, which is definitely running around. Jolly, Max Speed, Double Dance Landorus. So the set is Nasty Plot, Psychic, Flamethrower, and Dazzling Gleam. I chose Flamethrower and Dazzling Gleam. Flamethrower is just your main way of hitting Steel types. Scizor, Skarmory, Ferrothorn, Metagross, just to name probably some of the more common steel types that are not Heatran. And then Dazzling Gleam allows you to touch dark types. Greninja can't switch in freely to you, Tyranitar can't switch in freely to you, and those are probably the main dark types as well that are coming in on you that you wouldn't Flamethrower. Obviously Bisharp you would Flamethrower. But just to name two dark types off the top of my head, that Dazzling Gleam does help you deal with. Now, this also allows you to deal with the Lottie twins or dragons in general, which is why Dazzling Gleam was chosen over something like Energy Ball for maybe like Tapu Fini or bulky ground types. But +2 Genesis Supernova hits incredibly hard. Just to show you a few calcs. This is a regular Genesis Supernova versus max HP Landers. It does 78 to 92%, and if you get rid of its HP, it's almost an OHKO. It is almost, well, I'm sorry about that. It is almost an OHKO all the time. It's a 62% chance to knock it out, and with Stealth Rock up, Landorus just goes down, so it's a really, really strong attack. And obviously at +2 it dies. And the thing is, after you go for Genesis Supernova, I think this is one of the drawbacks. I feel like this Z move would be a lot better if it summoned the Psychic terrain before it did the attack. So if it actually ended up doing the damage including Psychic terrain. But after you go for it, you just have Psychic terrain, and Psychic terrain in general just boosts Psychic, as well as making Mew immune to priority moves. So Bisharp can't Sucker Punch you, Scizor can't Bullet Punch you, just to name a few things, a few priority moves that could be coming off of you. Just to show another one, we have Tapu Fini here. It does go down to +2 Genesis Supernova, and there's a huge difference between this and Psychic. You see that +2 Psychic only does 56 to 67% to max HP Tapu Fini. That is ridiculous compared to Genesis Supernova OHKOing Tapu Fini. And of course, after it goes down, Psychic terrain is up, so it still boosts your Psychic versus other Pokemon. And I think Mew is one of those mons that you're not necessarily going to be sweeping with. I don't think it's a Pokemon that's just necessarily going to be setting up and sweeping unless you're fighting a really, really fat team with no type of speed control or nothing from you at all. But I think it's one of those mons that it'll get a kill or two and probably be revenge killed. That's the way I feel that it is. And to show you another calc we have versus Special Defensive Zygarde, and this is just the bulkiest Special Defensive Zygarde. Max HP, max Special Defense, and Genesis Supernova does 89 to 105%, which is more than super effective Dazzling Gleam, obviously. But yeah, just to show you how strong of an attack it is. And there are a few other Pokemon too. Heatran, just to name one. A utility Heatran, just max HP, takes 61 to 72%, but if it is offensive Tran, which is the one that's running Bloom, Doom, and Taunt, Genesis Supernova does 73 to 86%. Your Psychic knocks it out after. And keep in mind, it is setting up the Psychic terrain. So think about Lele. When Lele comes in, gets at that terrain, the field gets a little bit weird. the Mew does the exact same thing. Mew sets it up, but after the damage is done. So unfortunately, it's not in the damage count. I do want to show you how this looks. I'm gonna give a big shout out to. Sorry about that. I don't know what I was clicking. Oh, sorry about that. Shout out to my boy Superblah. I'll actually link the video down below because I do want to give him full credit for it. But I want to show you how cool this move actually looks on Wi-Fi as well. Though of course he's using Citrus, so it looks a little bit better here. But this move looks absolutely sick. I feel like it's a reference to the Gen 1 Pokemon game, and I did want to show it off before we talk about the other set that I do have for Mew. But yeah, like I said, I feel like this Pokemon isn't something that's going to set up and sweep necessarily unless you're fighting a fatter team with like Toxapex, Venusaur, Zygarde, Celesteela, things like that. I feel like unless you're fighting a fat team like that, you're not going to be straight up sweeping. This Alolan Jamvad is about to get destroyed. Look at that. Baby Jamvad never saw it coming. And then obviously after you knock it out, this is what I'm talking about. The field gets weird right after, so you set up the psychic terrain. So unfortunately, it's not put in the into the damage calculation. Now next up we have not necessarily the same set. It is the same set, however, it doesn't have the same coverage. You drop Flamethrower, and that's because you want to get Roost, and Roost allows you to have that longevity versus, again, bulkier teams. Nasty Plot with Roost easily beats Tapu Fini, even if you do not have your MeWMZ anymore. But that allows you to beat that and pretty much just come in on the bulkier teams, come in on Toxapex, come in on Venusaur repeatedly, Roost off the damage, Nasty Plot up, and sweep. However, if you are running this set, I advise you run either Dugtrio with Choice Band, Choice Scarf, or Focus Sash. Basically, Dugtrio is just there to trap Heatran and trap Tyranitar, which is something that this will struggle with. The reason I don't run Aura Sphere over Dazzling Gleam or Flamethrower, I feel like Flamethrower is necessary when there's Skarmory, there's Scizor running around, there's Ferrothorn, Metagross, and while I would love to run Aura Sphere as well, I feel like the coverage with Dazzling Gleam to actually be able to not only break through obviously dark types like Greninja, which of course Aura Sphere would do the same thing, but to not be walled by a Pokemon like Latias, I think that's key when using this. So, or Latios rather, I think that's key when using this, which is why I have Dazzling Gleam over Aura Sphere. But Aura Sphere can be used. But again, if you're running this set, Dugtrio, whether it be Focus Sash, whether it be Choice Band, whether it be Choice Scarf, you want to use it because it can trap Heatran. It's a very good partner, as well as trapping Tyranitar, which really supports Mew. Mew is not knocking out Choice Band Tyranitar from full. Even if you don't end up knocking out Tyranitar with Dugtrio, as long as you get off damage, I mean, as long as Tyranitar is at about, maybe around, I'm going to say 60%, if it's Choice Band, around 60%, you can knock it out with plus 2 Dazzling Gleam after rocks. So maybe less than 60%. But yeah, as long as you get off damage on that, or trap Heatran, which severely helps Mew's case, because Heatran can go for Toxic and wear it down. Though, of course, if you're running Nasty Plot Roost, you Roost up on it. If it doesn't have Toxic, if it accidentally burns you with Lava Plume, you beat it 1v1 by Nasty Plotting up and going for your Genesis Supernova, a boosted one. Magnezone is also a great partner if you are running the set without Flamethrower, because this traps Ferrothorn, this traps Scizor, this traps Skarmory, this traps Celesteela, allowing Mew for an easier setup. And Mew's one of those Pokemon I feel like is just great at breaking your opponent's team. I showed you some calcs right here. Let's just get rid of the +2. Let's get rid of this. Like, just being able to knock out offensive landers from full, or even being able to deal with defensive landers, because like I said right here, or as you see right here, Psychic is not a 2 KO on defensive landers, but Genesis Supernova into Psychic is a KO, and just boosting your attacks after that. But yeah, Magnezone is a great partner for Mew. And Magearna is also a very solid partner, being able to take on the dark type attacks that are coming up off at Mew, or the bug type attacks. I'm talking about Pheromosa's Bug Buzz or U-Turn. I'm talking about Greninja's Dark Pulse. Magearna works very well for that. It can also take on the attacks coming out from Tapu Lele, if it's Scarf. Basically, Magearna also Volt Switches around, and Pokemon that come in on Magearna, like Heatran, they get worn down by Aura Sphere, they get worn down by Volt Switch plus Hazards. So another option is, of course, Baton Pass. Baton Pass is an option maybe over Roost, but I think there's rarely a time that you would want to Nasty Plot Baton Pass and run MeWMZ. I feel like if you want to run MeWMZ, you want to sweep, and that's what you want to do with Mew. But in any case, that's pretty much what I have for Mew right now. I just want to talk about Genesis Supernova. I do want to know your thoughts on it, and if you have any other sets, maybe a bulky taunt set. But I feel like that's a waste of a Z move if you're not using it offensively. And that's just my opinion. But why would I use this when I can use a Bloom Doom on Heatran, the trap Tapu Fini to support something like my Banditar Click and Crunch or things like that. Like, I feel like if you're going to use Mew or with Mew EMZ, you use it on an offensive Nasty Plot set, and it shines a lot better versus defensive sets. Dazzling Gleam also helps out with Sableye, which would otherwise wall it, which fatter teams obviously have. Though, again, Mew does very well versus bulkier teams. You could run Taunt. So like Nasty Plot, Taunt, Psychic, Dazzling Gleam, though I think you definitely want Roost for longevity, but Taunt actually helps you a lot. Stopping Chansey. Unfortunately, like I said, because you don't get the boost immediately, +2 Genesis Supernova, while it does do damage, it does do 39 to 47%, and then you get your Psychic Terrain, which makes your Psychic do 30% on average. It's still not a KO on Chansey, and Chansey can just toxic you and wear you down. But if you do have Taunt, then that'll help you with the Chansey, wearing it down and whatnot. But I just want to talk about Genesis Supernova. I do want to know your thoughts down below, give you some few ideas for sets. And yeah, Mew is one of those Pokemon that can really run anything, but I just want to talk specifically about Genesis Supernova, which is why this is not a full-on moveset video for Mew. But in any case, thank you so much for watching. Feel free to leave a like, subscribe, do your thing. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye, friends.